Now I'm going to ask Jeff about, is United States of America sitting on the fence on Syria? In my understanding, they are not. Why? Because they are holding the most important card in the issue of Syria, which is sanctions. Even when the Europeans wanted to ease the sanctions, eventually the Americans are the people who are going to, give the final approval or not. So they are taking position. The fact that Syria, after 4 months, is at this moment in time suffering from sanctions, and the current government, which we are demanding them to show all kinds of flexibilities, cannot provide to the people even daily food, it means we are not on the fence. What is the grand strategy of the United States of America in Syria? And how do you see the game played right now by Trump administration?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's important for us to understand where this entire war came from. It did not come from Bashar al-Assad. It came from Washington. There was a decision in 2011 to overthrow Assad. Actually, that came from Jerusalem. This has been a desire of the Israeli government that stretches back more than 25 years. Netanyahu's idea is make the Middle East in Israel's image, overthrow every government that opposes Israel. He's had a friend in that, and that is the CIA and the United States government. So this war in Syria did not come.
Now I'm going to ask Jeff about, is United States of America sitting on the fence on Syria? In my understanding, they are not. Why? Because they are holding the most important card in the issue of Syria, which is sanctions. Even when the Europeans wanted to ease the sanctions, eventually the Americans are the people who are going to, give the final approval or not. So they are taking position. The fact that Syria, after 4 months, is at this moment in time suffering from sanctions, and the current government, which we are demanding them to show all kinds of flexibilities, cannot provide to the people even daily food, it means we are not on the fence. What is the grand strategy of the United States of America in Syria? And how do you see the game played right now by Trump administration?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's important for us to understand where this entire war came from. It did not come from Bashar al-Assad. It came from Washington. There was a decision in 2011 to overthrow Assad. Actually, that came from Jerusalem. This has been a desire of the Israeli government that stretches back more than 25 years. Netanyahu's idea is make the Middle East in Israel's image, overthrow every government that opposes Israel. He's had a friend in that, and that is the CIA and the United States government. So this war in Syria did not come from Assad's repression. It did not come from Assad's dictatorship. This war came from a presidential order by Obama to overthrow Assad, starting in the spring of 2011. We have a name for this program. It was Operation Timber Sycamore. The United States, together with other countries in this region, trained fighters, especially jihadists, including the ones that just took power, to overthrow the regime. This created chaos. 600,000 dead in Syria in a war that has gone on for 14 years. The outcome of this war is what the CIA wanted back in 2011, which is that a jihad group would take power in Syria after being armed by the United States. the reason I want to be clear about this is that we will not have peace in this region until we have public diplomacy that is based on real diplomacy, not on CIA operations. And we will not have peace until Israel stops its militarization of the entire Middle East. Because the Syrian war is just one of 6 wars that Israel has promoted, including in Lebanon, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia, and Sudan. We had the list, actually, from Wesley Clark back in 2001, when he was handed a paper in the Pentagon that the goal was 7 wars in 5 years. The only war that hasn't taken place yet, to Netanyahu's great consternation, is the US war with Iran, which Israel is still trying to instigate to this very day. So the Syrian war is part of a regional tragedy. We have tragedy in Gaza, the West Bank, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Sudan, South Sudan, and Libya that I put at the hands of the United States government and its ally Israel, because none of these wars had to happen. These were all wars of choice. They were all wars that came from the idea of regime change operations, that the United States would determine which regimes operate in which countries. We'll never have peace in this region if outside imperial powers like the United States are dictating the terms to this region. The only way to have peace in this region is if this region is determining its own future, not outside powers. And Israel could never do these wars on its own. These are American wars. America provides the financing, it provides the military backup, it provides the naval support, it provides the intelligence operations, it provides the munitions. Israel couldn't fight for 1 day without the United States backing. Israel could not be committing a genocide in Gaza without the United States' full operational complicity. I don't mean political complicity, I mean direct, daily operational complicity. This has to end. This region has been divided for 100 years, first by the British Empire and then by the American Empire. And this is going on until today. We have a genocide going on right next door. Till today, till this morning. People being wantonly killed, brazenly killed, because the United States is providing the means for this. So this is what's happening in Syria. Is the US on the fence? Hardly. It's the major actor. I know, by the way, I know firsthand that in 2012, UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon appointed former Secretary General Kofi Annan as special envoy to reach a peace in Syria. I loved Kofi Annan. I love Ban Ki-moon. I worked for both of them. Kofi Annan arranged a peace in 2012. He arranged a peace in Syria. You know why it didn't happen? Because all the parties agreed to peace except one. Literally one. That was the United States of America. The United States of America said there will be no peace unless Bashar al-Assad goes the first day. The other parties said, no, you can't just determine that. Maybe there'll be a process, maybe there'll be elections agreed, maybe there'll be a 2-year process, a 3-year process. The United States said no. Assad must go the first day of any agreement or we block it. And so Kofi Annan stepped down from his position after having negotiated a peace arrangement, and we have had 500,000 people dead since then. We should not allow this kind of criminality to be normal. This region has been at war nonstop for 30 years. Actually, I would say for at least 57 years since the Six-Day War, because there has been no honest accounting of international law, no honest diplomacy. It's been militarization all the way through. And we could have peace immediately in this region. All that is required, in my view, is the United States change its veto of Palestine as the 194th UN member state, because on that basis, all the region would normalize relations and the wars all across this region would stop. But Israel has had control over US policy, and it says no. It wants greater Israel. It wants Israel in Syria. It wants Israel in Lebanon. It wants Israel in the West Bank. It wants Israel in East Jerusalem. It wants Israel in Gaza. And until that stops, we're not going to have peace. So is the U.S. on the fence? Of course not. It's the major protagonist of this whole war and has been for the last 14 years.
My name is Abdul Hamid Sayam. I am a journalist for Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I am a former UN staff as well. And I want to ask you, Mr. Sack, that you just gave one explanation to what happened in Syria. It's a conspiracy theory by the US. So the millions of Syrians who went to the street calling for the downfall of Bashar al-Assad, they don't count. Those who went into the street saying Silmiya, Silmiya, those who they paid their price, Ghayath Matar and Hamza al-Khatib, and all these young Syrians shouting in the street in millions. They don't count. Yes, I agree, there was a conspiracy, but not in the beginning, after maybe, of how they diverted the Arab Spring. But the Arab people were fed up with these dictators, and they went to the street, not only in Syria, but in Tunisia, in Egypt, in Libya, everywhere in Yemen. But then the conspirators started their job then, to divert it, to end up with this kind of ruthless dictator. To say, for people to say, oh, we'd have been better off under Gaddafi and under Mubarak and under. So how do you respond to that? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Abdul Hamid.
I am not discussing the agency of the Syrian people. I'm discussing the opposite. Do not be naive. Do not think that 600,000 people died because of Assad and the protesters. This was a war. Wars are expensive. They require billions of dollars. They require armaments. And I'm not talking about a conspiracy theory. I'm talking about a conspiracy. And you should know. Everybody go look up Operation Timber Sycamore. Understand what happened in your region. And if you think that calling in the CIA is going to do the bidding of agency in this region, you are sadly mistaken. This region has been manipulated by Britain, France, and the United States for 100 years since the Versailles Treaty. It will not have safety or peace until the United States is out of this region through manipulation and war. You all say, well, it's Israel doing this. It's the same thing I'm talking about. It's the same reason for Operation Timber Sycamore. It's not an independent fact. It's the reason why this happened. I'm the last to denigrate agency. I'm telling you exactly the opposite. If you think your big friend, the United States, is going to do your bidding and help you get your way, empires divide to rule. They are not doing the bidding of Turkey or Syria or Lebanon or anybody else in this region. And if this is Yes, you want to balance Persia or Iran. You call in the United States to do that, and you think this is going to work out well? It's not going to work out well. This region has three major powers: the Arab world, the Turkish world, and the Persian world. It's been more than 1,000 years this way. I said to Iranian diplomats that Iran has been 5,000 years. I was corrected, 7,000 years. It's a long story. You don't need the United States to pull the chestnuts out of the fire. And don't believe that this happened because of agency of the Syrian people. I'm sorry, I'm not denigrating the Syrian people, just the opposite. I know what happened. I know what my country does. I suspect most of you do too. And it should not be ignored, because the wars are going to continue until we have real agency, not pseudo-agency. And by the way, there is no international community. We're trying to make one, but it doesn't exist right now. That's the tragedy in this world. There is no community. There are interests. There are militaries. There are regime change operations. This is not community. We need real community. And by the way, I give every day my volunteer time to the UN for 25 years because I believe in it. It's my life commitment. So I believe in community. I also happen to know that the United States blocked the agreement in 2012. I'm sorry, I won't elaborate. But the United States blocked it, and I know it.
Well, I know it too, Joe.
I know,
Okay.
but I know it from Kofi, sorry.
Perfect.
I too.
Ooh, yeah. Ooh, all right now. Oh, yeah. The world is troubled, and living ain't easy. The world is troubled. You got to believe it. The world is troubled, and living ain't easy. I said the world is troubled. You got to believe it. Cast the world.
But they claim they want to build the temple. Now, I want to discuss a little bit of sensitive history. And if I go to sensitive history, well, then I must quote sources that say it rather than that I say it. This is a fascinating book, and the web pages are there. You can check it out. Facts are facts. This is a book that was written by a Jewish man. And he confronted the thinking of many of the high-placed individuals of the world. This is interesting stuff. In this book, Benjamin H. Friedman, a Jewish man, writes about the Jews and reveals an interesting history. He states that the present Jews in Palestine are not the true descendants of the Judeans, but rather descendants of the Khazars. In the letter addressed to D. David Goldstein of Boston, Massachusetts, a convert to Catholicism, the author, Benjamin Friedman of New York City, dated October 1954, provides some fascinating insights. This is in the public domain. Let's study this for a while and see where we get. Benjamin H. Friedman claims that the word Jew was only introduced into the English language in the 18th century, and that Jesus referred to himself as a Judean and not as a Jew. Inscribed upon the cross when Jesus was crucified were the Latin words, Iesus Nazarenus Rex Iod Deorum, which means Jesus of Nazareth, ruler of the Judeans. Now this is fascinating. I went and checked it, and it is so. Yes, it happens to be so. Now the word Jew today has a religious as well as a political connotation. You think of a Jewish entity, a government, but you also think of their religion incorporated at the same time, whereas the term Judean is a geographic connotation. It's a geographic. It doesn't incorporate the religion. It's where he came from. He was from Judah. He was a Judean. He further writes, the form of religious worship known as Pharisaism in Judea in the time of Jesus was a religious practice based exclusively upon the Talmud. The Talmud in the time of Jesus was the Magna Carta, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, all rolled into one, of those who practiced Pharisaism. The Talmud today occupies the same relative position with respect to those who profess Judaism. So the rituals and rites that many of them observed were based on the Talmud and not on the Torah. Rabbi Morris, this is all from the source. Rabbi Morris in Kurtzer wrote a most revealing and comprehensive article with the title, What is a Jew?, which was published as a feature article in Look magazine in June 17, 1952 issue. In that article, Rabbi Morris Kurtzer evaluated the significance of the Talmud to Judaism today. In that illuminating treatise and that important subject, by the most qualified authority at the time, Rabbi Morris N. Kurtzer stated, the Talmud consists of 63 books of legal, ethical, and historical writings of the ancient rabbis. It was edited 5 centuries after the birth of Jesus. It is a compendium of law and lore. It is the legal code which forms the basis of the Jewish religious law, and it is, note, the textbook used in the training of rabbis. So rabbis are trained according to the Talmud. And the Talmud has very little in common with the Bible. Then he states, from the birth of Jesus until this day, there have never been recorded more vicious and vile, libelous blasphemies of Jesus or Christians and the Christian faith by anyone, anywhere, or any time than you will find between the covers of the infamous 63 books, which are the legal code which forms the basis of the Jewish religious law as well as the textbook used in the training of rabbis. I don't want to go into it. If I were to put the quotes on the screen, which the Talmud contains about Jesus, you would be horrified. It is some of the vilest statements that I have ever had the dishonor of reading. And this is what their training consists of. He then proceeds to quote some of the most horrendous statements from the Talmud regarding ethical issues, and not only regarding ethical issues, which deal with many, many issues from economics to relations with women, etc., and, of course, the view on Christ. As to the origin of the present Jews in Palestine, he states that those Jews derived from Eastern Europe, and many, many of the Jews that today live in the reconstituted state of Israel come from Eastern Europe, are not descendants of the Judeans or the lost tribes of Israel, but rather descendants of the Khazars. Who were they? They were a nation most people do not even know of. He writes, the so-called self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe in modern history cannot legitimately point to a single ancient ancestor who ever set even a foot on the soil of Palestine in the era of Bible history. Research also revealed that the so-called or self-styled Jews in Eastern Europe were never Semites, are not Semites now, nor can they ever be regarded as Semites at any future time by any stretch of the imagination. What secret, mysterious power has been able for countless generations to keep the origin and the history of the Khazars and the Khazar kingdom out of the history textbooks? Did you ever learn about it at school? I never learned about it. And out of classroom courses in history throughout the world, the origin and the history of Khazars and the Khazar kingdom are certainly incontestable historical facts. You have to do some cross-checking. Even the Jewish Encyclopedia is quite explicit about it. This was the Khazar kingdom. Here is the Black Sea, the Byzantine Empire. Here was Persia. And here was the kingdom of the Khazars. It was a massive kingdom. Now let's look at some of this interesting history. The Khazars were an Asiatic nation. And the Jewish Encyclopedia states Persian origin that converted to Talmudic Judaism. Now obviously some of the rabbis involved there could have been Judeans and probably were Judean descendants, but their converts are not Judeans. And that had conquered a vast area of Eastern Europe, which was in turn later conquered by the Russians in the 10th and 13th century. So that is why there are so many Russian Jews. Have you ever thought where they came from? Did they escape from Palestine? Were they the lost 10 tribes? Did they emigrate to Russia? No. This is a totally different nation that accepted Talmudic Judaism. He writes, after a historic session with representatives of the three monotheistic religions, King Bulan, 7th century, decided against Christian and Islam, because Islam had just arisen, and selected as the future state religion the religious worship then known as Talmudism, and not known and practiced as Judaism, which was totally different, which was based on the Bible. They adopted the Hebrew alphabet, and the Khazars adapted words to their requirements from the German, the Slavonic, and the Baltic languages. This language was known as Yiddish. And Yiddish used the Hebrew alphabetic characters, but not Hebrew. It's not Hebrew. It's Yiddish. I've always wondered, when I hear them speaking Yiddish, I understand quite a few words. Why? Because I'm German. They had many exchanges with universities and their students were trained. So here is another nation which had occupied this area, and they had adopted this religion and brought rabbis in and trained the people, but they were not Judean. Now let's jump to today. In accordance to this history, the religion of the modern state of Israel is based on Kabbalistic and Talmudic traditions and is far removed from the biblical worship of Yahweh. And if it is based on the Talmud, it is so anti-Jesus Christ that it belies understanding. And here we have, in March 2006, while visiting Yeshiva University at Brooklyn, New York, a Jewish institute dedicated to the study of the what? Talmud. We have Cardinal Kasper. Who's Cardinal Kasper? Cardinal Kasper is the cardinal associated with ecumenism. They are honoring the Talmud together. You see, behind the scenes, there is a pact. Because I, as a Christian, can sympathize with every other religion, but I cannot embrace a religion that speaks evil of Jesus Christ. nor can I have a union with such a religion. Because can two walk together lest they be agreed? Now let's get back to the Napoleonic society and see what happened further. Napoleon established both the Bank of France, we saw that, the French Bourse, the stock exchange, as well as the National Department of Tax Boards. Do we have all of those systems of governments in the world today, yes or no? Yes, we do. And we have the same system of economics today, yes or no? Yes. The world is run by the stock exchange. To ensure equitable taxation for all, consequently the income of the French peasants skyrocketed. Think tanks and research centers were established in France to work on projects vital for national economy. So a totally new economic order evolved. Who started these organizations? We will have to see. Who runs the secret societies today and the secret organizations? Who started them? Who is the instigator? Who's the boss behind the scenes? We will have to see. And maybe we'll get a different picture of what's happening in the world. An industrial board was organized to provide data and information to French industry, as exemplified by the success of the sugar beet farming and the canning industry. In the military, Napoleon pioneered in what we describe today as the principles of war. And did you know that these principles, the armies of today, are based on the organization created by Napoleon for his Grand Army, and it has been used ever since. Who controls these armies?
Thank you, and it's a tremendous honor for me to be here with Gabor, one of the intellectual and moral giants of our time. This time next week, I will be in Cairo with the great cartoonist Joe Sacco, who wrote Palestine and Footnotes in Gaza. And we will be beginning our book on the genocide by interviewing Palestinians in Cairo, a book my publisher, who's made handsome profits off me in the past, Simon & Schuster, has already told me they don't want. My old office in Gaza is a pile of rubble. The streets around it, where I went for coffee, ordered maftool or manakish, had a haircut, are flattened. Friends and colleagues are dead, or more often have vanished. Last heard from weeks or months ago, no doubt buried somewhere under the broken slabs of concrete. The uncounted dead in the tens, perhaps hundreds of thousands. Israel has made Gaza a wasteland. 50 million tons of rubble and debris. Rats and dogs scavenge amid the ruins and the fetid pools of raw sewage, the putrid stench and contamination of decaying corpses rises from beneath the mountains of shattered concrete. Palestinians, 90% of whom are displaced, risk death from unexploded ordnance left behind after 18 months of airstrikes, artillery barrages, missile strikes, and blasts from tank shells, and a variety of toxic substances, including raw sewage and asbestos. Israel, supplied with billions of dollars of weapons from the United States, Germany, Italy, and the UK, created this hell, and it intends to maintain it. The blockade of all food and humanitarian aid since March 2nd, that's more than 60 days, has resulted in outbreaks of hepatitis A caused by drinking contaminated water, ailments such as scabies, malnutrition. 60,000 children show signs of malnutrition. 57 Palestinians have starved so far since March 2nd, most of them elderly and children. Starvation, widespread nausea, and vomiting. Palestinians in Gaza live in makeshift tents, encamped amid these slabs of concrete. Many have been forced to move over a dozen times. 9 in 10 homes have been destroyed or damaged. Apartment blocks, schools, hospitals, bakeries, mosques, universities. Israel blew up Isra University in Gaza City and the Turkish Palestinian Hospital on March 21st in controlled demolitions. Cemeteries, shops, offices, all have been obliterated. The United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees in the Near East, UNRWA, estimates that clearing Gaza of the rubble will take 15 years and cost between $40 billion and $50 billion. But any rebuilding of Gaza, Israel and the Trump administration have decided, will not be done for the Palestinians. And Israeli organizations, including the far-right Nakala organization, have held conferences to prepare for Jewish colonization of Gaza once Palestinians are removed. This is the last chapter of the genocide, accentuated by the decision by Israel's security cabinet to occupy all of Gaza and remain there indefinitely while emptying the northern part of the Gaza Strip completely of Palestinians. It is the final blood-soaked push to drive the Palestinians from Gaza. No food, no medicine, no shelter, no clean water, no electricity. Israel has turned Gaza into a Dante-esque cauldron of human misery, where Palestinians are being killed in their hundreds and soon again in their thousands and tens of thousands, or they will be forced out, never to return. This final chapter marks the end of Israeli lies, the lie of the two-state solution, the lie that Israel respects the laws of war that protect civilians, the lie that Israel bombs hospitals and schools only because they are used as staging areas by Hamas, the lie that Hamas uses civilians as human shields, while Israel routinely forces captive Palestinians to enter potentially booby-trapped tunnels and buildings ahead of Israeli troops. The lie that Hamas or Palestine Islamic Jihad are responsible, the charge often being errant Palestinian rockets, for the destruction of hospitals, United Nations buildings, or mass Palestinian casualties. The lie that humanitarian aid to Gaza is blocked because Hamas is hijacking the trucks or smuggling weapons and war material. The lie that Israeli babies are beheaded or Palestinians carried out mass rape of Israeli women. The lie that 75% of the tens of thousands killed in Gaza were Hamas, quote-unquote, terrorists. The lie that Hamas, because it was allegedly rearming and recruiting new fighters, is responsible for the breakdown of the ceasefire on March 18th, a breakdown that has seen more than 2,300 Palestinians killed, 6,000 injured, adding to the official death toll of 52,000, with, of course, thousands, perhaps tens of thousands more under the rubble. Israel's naked genocidal project is exposed. The few remaining food kitchens will close within days, now that the UN's World Food Program and UNRWA's food stocks have run out. Mass starvation will follow, along with deaths by disease caused by contaminated water and food, and scores of killed and wounded each day under the relentless assault of bombs, missiles, shells, and bullets. Nothing, if Israel has its way, will function. Bakeries, water treatment, sewage plants, hospitals, distribution centers, clinics. Less than half of the 53 emergency vehicles operated by the Palestine Red Crescent Society are functional because of fuel shortages, and soon there will be none. Israel's message is unequivocal. Gaza will be uninhabitable. Leave or die. And the images from Gaza during the past 18 months were awful, but what is coming now will be worse. It will rival the most atrocious war crimes of the 20th century, including the mass starvation, wholesale slaughter, and leveling of the Warsaw Ghetto in 1943 by the Nazis. October 7th marked the dividing line between an Israeli policy that advocated the brutalization and subjugation of the Palestinians and a policy that calls for their extermination and removal from historic Palestine. What we are witnessing is the equivalent of the moment triggered by the annihilation of some 200 soldiers led by George Armstrong Custer in June 1876 at the Battle of the Little Bighorn. After that humiliating defeat, Native Americans were targeted for extermination, with the remnants forced into prisoner of war camps, later renamed reservations, where thousands died of disease, lived under the merciless gaze of their armed occupiers, and fell into a life of immiseration and despair. Expect the same for the Palestinians in Gaza, dumped, I fear, in one of the world's hellholes and forgotten. The expansion of Greater Israel, which includes the seizing of Syrian territory in the Golan Heights, southern Lebanon, Gaza, of course, and the occupied West Bank, where some 40,000 Palestinians have been driven from their homes and which I expect will soon be annexed by Israel, is being cemented into place. But the genocide in Gaza is only the start. The world is breaking down under the onslaught of the climate crisis, which is triggering mass migrations, failed states, catastrophic wildfires, hurricanes, storms, flooding, and droughts. As global stability unravels, industrial violence, which is decimating the Palestinians, will become ubiquitous. Israel's annihilation of Gaza marks the death of a global order guided by internationally agreed upon laws and rules, ones often violated by the United States in its imperial wars in Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, but the one that was at least acknowledged as a utopian vision. The United States and its Western allies not only supply the weaponry to sustain the genocide, but obstruct the demand by most nations for adherence to humanitarian law. They have carried out attacks against the only nation, Yemen, which has tried to halt the genocide. The militarized drones, helicopter gunships, walls and barriers, checkpoints, coils of concertina wire, watchtowers, detention centers, deportations, brutality, and torture, denial of entry visas, apartheid existence that comes with being undocumented, loss of individual rights, and electronic surveillance are as familiar to the desperate migrants along the Mexican border or attempting to enter Europe as they are to the Palestinians. And the message the global North has given to the rest of the world is this: we have everything, and if you try and take it away from us, we will kill you. Thank you.
The world is troubled, and living ain't easy. The world is troubled. You got to believe it. The world is troubled, and living ain't easy. I said the world.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks so much to everybody who's here, who's watching at home. I want to briefly echo the appreciation to everybody who made this night possible. Nick Lapara of the Let's Give a Damn podcast, Hiba Abu Bakr, and Patrick O'Neill of Mecca. Thank you so much for all of your selfless efforts to make this night possible. Thank you also to all the volunteers. Thank you also to Mona Miari, who we saw performing earlier. Thank you, Mona. We called this event tonight, Palestine, the moral issue of our time, for obvious reasons. We're living through one of the worst crimes in human history, a genocide, and this is a particularly moral issue for those of us in the West because this genocide is being carried out with our government's support. And I'm very grateful that tonight we can hear from two people who have been speaking out for Palestine for a very, very long time, and who have inspired many others to follow in their footsteps, including me. Chris Hedges is a veteran journalist who spent years reporting overseas for the New York Times, including as the Middle East bureau chief based in Cairo. And I first heard about Chris Hedges in 2001 when he wrote a really path-breaking article for Harper's Magazine called A Gaza Diary. And Chris, this was at the height of the Second Intifada. This is 2001, and Chris went to Gaza and just reported on what he witnessed and laid bare the cruelty and the sadism of the Israeli occupying regime, including its fatal shootings of Palestinian children in Gaza. And I remember thinking, when I saw Chris's byline, what is a New York Times journalist doing writing this? Because in the New York Times, as we know now, you aren't allowed to write about this. You aren't allowed to portray Palestinians as the human beings that they are. You aren't allowed to show the reality of the Israeli occupier. But Chris was clearly someone who was not putting his career first. He was putting the truth first. He was putting morality first. And for that, he paid the price. After he wrote that piece in Harper's, which actually he used his vacation time to do while he was on vacation from the New York Times, the Times banned him from writing about the Middle East ever again. And his fate was sealed a few years later when he came out against the Iraq War, which is another no-no at the New York Times. And soon Chris was basically forced to leave. So he's an example to so many of us, especially journalists, about how there are costs to speaking the truth, there are costs to integrity, but there are also great rewards. And Chris, because of his uncompromising journalism, has been able to reach people around the world with his voice of conscience. And that's expressed in his brand new book, which has just come out, called The Genocide Foretold, Reporting on Survival and Resistance in Occupied Palestine. So I'm very grateful that Chris is here with us tonight. My dad, Gabor, has been speaking out about Palestine since he was a very young man. He was 23 years old in 1967 when he realized that so much of what he'd been told about Israel and Zionism was a lie. And ever since then, he's been trying to tell the truth, no matter the consequence. And one of my earliest memories of my dad telling the truth about Palestine came in 1989. He was in Palestine for the first time as part of a delegation visiting the occupied territories. And I heard him on the radio speaking about it, and it was a very formative experience for me. I heard him weeping and talking about how he had been weeping at what he had seen. And my memory of that is that he was not just weeping at what he was witnessing, the brutality of the Israeli occupation, which was then cracking down on the first Intifada, but he was also weeping for his people and for the use of the genocide that he lived through in Nazi-occupied Germany to justify the oppression of Palestinians, which has turned into a genocide today. So I'm very grateful that he is here as well to speak with us. And I'm going to play a clip from that interview, and we'll bring up Dad and Chris so they can hear it too. So coming up, Gabor Mate and Chris Hedges. So, because 1989 is a long time ago, we had to use AI to enhance the clip. So it's Gabor's voice plus AI, and this is just a clip of him. This is in Palestine. Oh, and by the way, I missed the most important part. This night is especially significant for us as a family because Dad, Gabor, was there in Palestine on a delegation organized by the Middle East Children's Alliance, by Mecca. So it's wonderful that we can be here tonight to support them. So, here's a bit of that interview.
Dr. Mate, how did you find yourself in this situation? What are you doing there? It's a long way from Vancouver.
I'm part of a delegation of health professionals sent by a Berkeley-based foundation called Middle East Children's Alliance. For the last week or so, we've been traveling through the occupied territories, refugee camps, villages, cities, trying to see the health conditions of Palestinians and especially Palestinian children. And I had been to Al-Maqasid Hospital here in Jerusalem just 2 days prior to the incident. Last night when I heard about it, I thought I needed to go and witness it for myself and to speak to the people and to speak to the medical staff.
What, in your conversations with these people, what has been the impact on you as a doctor?
Mr. Enright, I'm Jewish, I'm a doctor, I'm a human being. I've been crying for the past 3 days, even before that.
Because of what you've seen?
There aren't any words for it, and I don't think there's anything I can say to people when I come back that could convey the feeling for what I've seen. I went today to, I won't even say that. I'm sorry, I'll stop here.
Doctor, you will be criticized for speaking out, perhaps in some quarters.
I'm sorry about that. I know that I will be. I already have been. People feel that by criticizing Israel, you contribute to anti-Semitism or you're somehow being a traitor to your people. I don't believe that. I believe that anti-Semitism is far more served by people keeping silent, especially Jews keeping silent, or as such a thing that the whole world can perceive to be an injustice and an affront to humanity. And I think furthermore that the people who criticize, I feel sad for them. I really do. I'm not angry at them anymore. I used to be. I think they don't know, and they may not want to know, but I hope for their sake and for the salvation of their own humanity and the humanity of this country here that they open their eyes.
Dr. Matei, it's good to talk to you tonight. Thank you. Good luck.
Dr. Gabor Matei is with the Middle East Children's Alliance. He spoke from Jerusalem.
So here to speak now in support of the Middle East Children's Alliance, and we hope you'll join us in supporting this wonderful organization on top of what you've already given. Please join me in welcoming Gabor Matei.
Well, good evening. I hope you can hear me. I said in that clip that I'm not angry anymore. The hell I'm not angry. I'm totally enraged. I make my living really speaking the truth as I see it about human development, about trauma, about childhood, about illness, about health, what it means to be a human being. And I'm usually very confident and comfortable that I can convey in my words my understanding and perceptions of the world. In this case, I feel completely inadequate to actually put into words what I feel, what I see, and also what I perceive many human beings are going through right now. It's simply the words escape us. When in my adolescence, I first found out about the Nazi genocide of my own people, literally, almost every day when I would think about it, my head would spin. Literally, my head would spin. I think, how is this even possible? And I feel like I'm back with that adolescent, almost naive incomprehension about how this, what we're witnessing, can possibly be going on. It's a real privilege to be on the stage with Chris, whose work I followed for many years, who's been, as Aaron pointed out, such a beacon for truth in such a dark, dark world. Every era seems to have its moral touch point, and the theme tonight is Gaza as the moral issue of our time. In the 19th century, there was the question of freedom in Poland, actually. In the 20th century, amongst other major events, you might say that the Spanish Civil War in the 1930s was a moral touchstone. Where you stood on that issue told you where you stood on the world. In the 1960s, 70s, it was the Vietnam War. But all those situations, as much as they concentrated the issue of human morality and human ethics, there was something somewhat different about them, in that at least in the Spanish Civil War, and certainly in the Vietnam War, there was a fighting chance. And now we're seeing the slaughter of civilians and children and kids being amputated without anesthetics and being starved. And the press has always lied, but the lies have never been more egregious, and the silence has never been more deafening than it is today. And since I can't quite find the words, let me quote an a Muslim, an Arabic writer, Omar al-Akkad, who in his wonderful, wonderful book, One Day Everyone Will Have Been Against This, says the following: the moral component of history, the most necessary component, is simply a single question asked over and over again. When it mattered, who sided with justice and who sided with power? What makes moments such as this one so dangerous, so clarifying, is that one way or another, everyone is forced to answer. And Palestine is the issue of our time, where you stand on that issue tells you whether you've got a heart that's even open and functioning. Because you see, in the Western world, we value knowing with the mind, with the intellect. And with the intellect, you can make all kinds of arguments about who started what and who's responsible for what. But to be even asking as to where the truth lies means that you completely cut off from your heart and from your guts. So there's ways of knowing that combine the gut and the heart and the mind. And as somebody said, without the gut and the heart informing the mind, we're nothing but genius-level reptiles. And those genius-level reptiles are running our world right now.
So the world a time of sorrow, yeah. A time of judgment, yeah. Time of sorrow. Got the time to bed, still not borrow. Oh no. I said, the world is troubled. The world is troubled. The whole wide world. I said the whole wide
Something serious has just unfolded in Burkina Faso. It didn't make the front pages. It didn't trend, but it could rewrite the country's future. The government gathered, decisions were made, and now the state is moving in ways few saw coming. What did they plan behind closed doors? Why are these decisions so important? And what does it mean for the country and the continent? Let's find out. Burkina Faso's government just made a series of bold, coordinated decisions that could redefine its future. In a single council meeting, the country addressed education, security, justice, and economic reform without foreign aid. What happened wasn't routine policy. It was the quiet launch of a national transformation with continental implications. The council didn't emerge with fanfare, but what it left behind was a series of decisions that read less like routine governance and more like a strategic reset. Not reactionary, not symbolic. These were operational shifts, the kind that tell you a country is not only paying attention to its problems, but is finally choosing to solve them. Each file approved that day carries the weight of a government trying to re-establish its physical and psychological footprint, not by force, but by building. And where better to start than in the very places that feel most forgotten? It begins with the land. In the northern zone of Burkina Faso, particularly in the Sahel region, there are patches of land that haven't seen development in decades, not because they're unfit, but because they've been wrapped in bureaucratic confusion, tangled property disputes, and above all, the chilling reach of armed groups. This time, the state didn't negotiate with hesitation. It issued a decree classifying a 100-hectare zone in Dori as an area of urgent public utility. That single phrase flipped the equation. It unlocked the legal framework to move forward with something that had been delayed for years: the construction of a training and research unit in science and technology and an accompanying university residence. This wasn't about building walls and classrooms. This was about planting permanence in a region where presence often disappears. A place once described by silence is about to echo with the sounds of lectures, lab equipment, and students finding their future. And once you've established the presence of minds, what naturally follows is the presence of law. When conflict intensifies, courts tend to be the first to close. Judges withdraw. Cases freeze. The very idea of legal protection collapses. That's what happened across parts of Burkina Faso. But now, a decision has been made to reverse that spiral. The government has approved not just the return of judicial personnel, but a material reinforcement of the justice system itself. That means restoring the High Court, rehabilitating the Nuna prison, planning and studying the feasibility of new courts in Bogandé and Tougan. In these regions, courtrooms are more than legal infrastructure. They're an antidote to fear. People don't just want safety. They want a system they can rely on when things go wrong. They want rules they believe in, not just rifles they duck from. It's one thing to have a police force. It's another thing entirely to have a working justice system that holds power accountable and gives citizens a path back to dignity. But speaking of the police, they weren't left out either. Burkina Faso's internal security challenges aren't abstract. They're daily, real, and at times overwhelming. But instead of announcing flashy troop surges or temporary deployments, the government took a more deliberate approach by rethinking who gets to protect the country. A fresh wave of police recruitment was authorized. But this isn't your standard expansion. This time, the recruitment categories were tailored, targeted, and symbolic. They include commissioned officers, technicians, specialized skill holders, women, individuals connected to past national sacrifice, like families of fallen fighters and former volunteer defenders. The message here is subtle but firm. Security isn't just a job for the traditional few. It's a shared responsibility, one that needs diverse hands, real representation, and repaired trust between the state and the people. You don't rebuild public confidence with uniforms alone. You rebuild it by who wears them. Not all progress is visible from the outside. Some of it takes place in paperwork, in decrees that never make headlines. One such move involved lifting a quiet, powerful monopoly that had gone unchallenged for too long: the exclusive control over infrastructure quality testing. For years, one state lab held the final word on public construction standards. But now, the council has opened that space. No more sole authority, no more unchecked influence. The field is being widened to welcome competition, efficiency, and better outcomes. It may seem like a technical shift, but in reality, it's a deep political statement. The state is ready to disperse control and demand results, not rituals. And then came a decision that connects economy to identity: the formal recognition and empowerment of the Faso Abattoir Agency as a public economic establishment. Livestock has always been a backbone of Burkina Faso's rural life. But for too long, the processing and profits were handled far from the hands that raised the animals. This decree changes that. It gives the agency legal authority to act independently, tools to scale meat production and export, and the platform to support domestic food sovereignty. It's no longer just about feeding the nation. It's about ensuring the nation controls its food supply chain, from herders to markets. Each of these decisions isn't just a policy update. They're chess moves on a complex board, pieces repositioned not for immediate praise, but for long-term control of the narrative, of the economy, and of the people's faith in their state. But if this is what was done, the question becomes, why now? Why this timing, this urgency, this fire? That's what we'll uncover next. Here's a reminder to please like and share the video, and subscribe to our channel to watch more videos on Black culture, history, civilization, and identity. Let's continue now. You don't rewire a country on a whim. Not when the stakes are this high. Not when every district carries the memory of instability, and every institution carries the burden of being late. The decisions taken by Burkina Faso's government didn't come out of comfort. They came out of necessity, but not just the survivalist kind. This wasn't about patching holes in a sinking ship. This was about steering it somewhere it's never dared to go before. To understand why these specific changes were made now, you have to look at three pressure points converging all at once: territorial fragility, ideological urgency, and a rising demand for national authorship. Burkina Faso remains in a state of siege in several northern and eastern regions. Towns aren't just threatened, they're contested, depopulated, or fully overtaken. Whole communities have been displaced. Institutions have vanished from the map. In some places, the state is an echo, a rumor people hope is still true. But the Traoré government understands something critical. You can't reclaim a country with silence. That's why every recent decision targets visibility and presence. Not just military presence, state presence. A courtroom is not just a legal space. It's proof that the state still exists in that region. A school doesn't just educate, it anchors families. A meat processing facility doesn't just serve the economy, it pulls people back into legitimate state-backed networks. The urgency behind these reforms lies in the geography of conflict. When insurgents destroy police stations, the state doesn't just respond with arms, it responds by putting something else in their place. Something heavier than bullets, a future. There's another layer behind the timing: political consolidation. Ibrahim Traoré didn't come to power through a quiet election. His rise was forged in upheaval, riding on a wave of frustration with indecision, delay, and dependency. With that rise came expectation, the kind that doesn't wait years for slow reforms. The pressure to deliver something real, fast, and irreversible is immense. You see it in the way the government bypasses old bottlenecks. Declaring land of urgent public utility? That's not just about land, it's about cutting through red tape. Lifting state monopolies in public works? That's a move to shake loose a bureaucracy that chokes progress. In every move, you can see the government making this calculation. Either we act boldly now, or our credibility dies quietly later. There's no middle ground, and they know it. Burkina Faso has always had brilliant people. But for decades, the country has been forced to borrow direction from donors, foreign advisors, structural adjustment programs, and peacekeeping missions that often kept the peace for everyone except actual Burkinabe. What's different now is that the state is writing its storyline. When the government chooses to fund judicial renovations without asking for foreign aid, it's not just a budgeting choice, it's a symbolic declaration of authorship. When it integrates former volunteers and the families of the fallen into national police recruitment, it isn't just about filling quotas, it's an act of moral restitution to those who stepped in when the state was absent. Even the decision to strengthen domestic meat processing reflects a desire to reclaim local value, to stop exporting raw products and importing foreign solutions, to keep what belongs to Burkina Faso inside Burkina Faso. These choices are fueled by a broader vision, a post-colonial state that no longer leans, it stands. There's also the matter of continental perception. Across Africa, people are watching Burkina Faso more closely than ever, not just because of the political transitions, but because of how confidently the leadership is rejecting old systems. Whether it's distancing from Western funding mechanisms, withdrawing from ECOWAS alongside Mali and Niger, or openly challenging the utility of international organizations, Burkina Faso is projecting a very clear posture. We decide for ourselves now. But gestures are empty without substance. That's why this April reform package matters. It puts real infrastructure, policy, and legal muscle behind the country's ideological position. It says, we don't just criticize global power structures, we're building alternatives to them. There's also a quieter truth that can't be ignored. Burkina Faso doesn't have the luxury of time. Every delay is a win for insurgents. Every bureaucratic jam is a propaganda victory for those who argue the state can't deliver. That's why the government isn't waiting for perfection. It's launching what it has, refining as it goes, and choosing presence over paralysis. No policy can be judged solely by its paperwork. But one thing is clear. These decisions weren't made casually. They were born of pressure, of urgency, of a leadership that knows it's being watched by its citizens, its critics, and a continent craving boldness. These reforms are a bet that swift state building can outpace state collapse. That visibility can outrun violence. That control can return, not through occupation, but through service. And now that these choices are in motion, the next question becomes, what will they change? Because decisions are one thing, impact is another. Decisions are the beginning, but real power lies in the aftermath, in the visible and invisible ways those decisions ripple through a country's daily life. For Burkina Faso, the reforms passed on April 16th are not just instructions from the top. They are a blueprint that will quietly reconstruct the relationship between the state and its citizens, one region, one sector, one institution at a time. Because after years of trauma, skepticism, and betrayal, what people are really waiting for isn't announcements, it's evidence. And the evidence this time may finally be coming. Let's begin where the state's collapse was most visible, the peripheral zones, especially in the north and east. For years, these regions have been gripped by fear and left out of development plans. Residents have lived with the belief that they've been forgotten, sacrificed to geography and geopolitics. But the reforms passed are visibly and physically returning the state to these front lines. The construction of academic institutions in regions like Dori isn't just about science degrees. It's about the psychology of presence. Concrete buildings say something that no press conference ever can. We're here again. We're not leaving. And that sense of renewed presence changes everything. People who had begun to think only of fleeing to Ouaga, to Ghana, to anywhere safer, may begin to think about staying. About planting crops, sending their children to school, opening a small shop, and returning home. When the state shows up, people start to believe that life can resume. Conflict doesn't just destroy buildings, it destroys possibilities. It erases futures. And for many young Burkinabe, especially in rural and war-affected areas, the only visible futures were exile, armed groups, or economic hopelessness. That changes when young people see new routes to dignity. A young mechanic in Kaya, who thought the only path forward was migration, might now hear of a police recruitment drive specifically seeking technical roles. A widow in Fada Ngorma, who lost her husband to conflict, might now know there's a quota for families of the fallen, and a real reason to walk back into state service. These aren't symbolic gestures, they're functional bridges, taking people out of limbo and bringing them back into national purpose. Where there was isolation, there is now inclusion. And where there was grief, there may now be recognition. After years of institutional failure, trust doesn't return overnight, but it does start to rebuild when people interact with things that work. If a court opens in a place that hasn't seen a judge in 4 years, people don't need a campaign to tell them the system is back. They see a case filed, a land dispute settled, a conflict avoided, and it sticks. If a university campus in the Sahel region opens on time, with actual teachers and functioning facilities, parents don't need a state lecture about reform. They just watch their children walk into classrooms instead of into exile. That's the real currency of change in Burkina Faso right now. Visible, provable service delivery. Every functioning courtroom, each new campus wall, every fair recruitment notice, they all say one thing louder than any speech. The state is real again. One of the most understated impacts of these decisions lies in how they chip away at institutional monopolies that have held the country hostage. When the construction regulation sector was controlled by a single public lab, that exclusivity bred not just inefficiency, but quiet gatekeeping, the kind that inflated costs, slowed progress, and stifled innovation. Lifting that control opens the door for faster projects, cleaner audits, and private-public partnerships that don't have to navigate bureaucratic black holes. That reform alone could change the entire tempo of national development. Roads get built faster. Bridges get inspected by multiple eyes. Corruption has fewer corners to hide in. And over time, people begin to notice. When roads last longer, when buildings stop collapsing, when contracts become competitive, faith in systems returns. Burkina Faso has long held a paradox. Rich in resources, poor in control. Especially in agriculture and livestock, production has often been disconnected from profit. Farmers and herders produced value, but rarely captured it. By restructuring the Faso Abattoirs Agency, the government is signaling something deeper than just an upgrade in meat processing. It's declaring that value chains must serve the country before they serve exports. That is what Burkinabe hands raise and slaughter. Burkinabe institutions must own and distribute. This isn't just economic logic, it's emotional. It tells rural communities, especially those dependent on cattle rearing, that they're no longer just a raw material source for others. They're part of a national economic loop that finally includes them. And when you give people a stake in the system, you give them a reason to defend it. The changes triggered by these reforms will not be immediate, but their signals are already loud. They whisper something powerful in markets, in mosques, in bus stations, in villages. The state is trying again, not performing, not preaching, trying. And that subtle shift in public perception, from total cynicism to cautious hope, is one of the most dangerous things for any insurgency, and the most valuable for any government. Because once people believe the state is worth relying on, it eventually becomes something else entirely, a state worth fighting for. And that's where Burkina Faso now stands, not just on the edge of reform, but on the cusp of something far more profound, redefinition. Do you think anything can stop Burkina Faso from changing? Is the change real this time? Let us know in the comment section. Are you ready for a new Burkina Faso? Do you want to watch more videos like this one?
Kwame Nkrumah, gone. Patrice Lumumba, gone. Thomas Sankara, gone. Julius Nyerere, gone. Jomo Kenyatta, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Haile Selassie, gone. Nelson Mandela, gone. Amilcar Cabral, gone. Africa, protect Traoré, let no shadow steal his glory. From the Nile to Soweto, we mourn and pray, don't take another prophet away. Africa, protect Traoré, protect, protect, protect. it's our only message. From Haiti to Accra, we still say gone, gone. Toussaint Louverture, gone. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, gone. Many of the Maroons, gone. Marcus Garvey, gone. Malcolm X, gone. Harriet Tubman, gone. Frederick Douglass, gone. Jose Marti, gone. They lit fires in the night. They gave their flesh, they paid the price. But we still march in stolen chains. If we forget, it's us to blame. So let the wind across the land call their names with lifted hands. Let Traoré know he's not alone. Let the blood of prophets make him strong. Come, protects not always, there no shadows, fear his glory. From beloved, that's what it is to me. Less than self protection. Protect, let no bullet end this story. From Dakar to Kingston Bay, let's protect, try. From Harlem down to Zimbabwe, we still cry out their names. Gone.
They told me officially their plan, their mission was to kill the president of Benin, move to Congo Brazzaville, move to Angola, to kill the president of Angola, move to Uganda, and then go to Guinea, Sekou.
Camarade, bonjour.
Burkina Faso, liberate Africa. Traore, Traore, Traore. Hey, Africa, rise up, up we go. Traore, Traore, Traore. Oh, 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 oh. From Mali to Cairo, let us be free. Traore, 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 yes. The fire is burning up every mountain. Traore strong, Traore bold, young, fearless, hard to jump. He say no to puppet play. Africa, stand up today. Traore, Traore, Traore. Hey, Africa, rise up. The future is now. Traore, Traore, Traore. Oh, 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 oh. From Mali to Cairo, finally free. Traore, 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 yes. The fire is burning up every mountain. Traore talk, Africa here. No more bed, no more fear. He speak truth, he follow sound. Plant that unity in the ground. Traore, Traore leads and we are free. From the village to the cities, Africa stand up in unity. Traore We are the future, and the future says, thank you, Traore, Africa forever.
This is a point which I wanted to bring to your attention. And therefore, with this particular, there is a movement. Therefore, they make news in their news media. Before you can be assassinated, they can focus from the world's opinion that you are a murderer, you are this, you are this, you are this. But they wanted to draw the attention of the world that you are very bad while they have already planned everything. But God...
And I really don't think you need one. Your problem is that you think you need a handout. Everything you need is right under your foot, but you looking everywhere else for help instead of to yourself and what you can produce for yourself. This is Africa's dilemma. You are parading yourself before the world as international beggars. Your problem is not America. Your problem is not Israel. Your problem is not Britain. Your problem is your disunity and your dependence on others to do for you what you could do for yourself. So I don't have to come back here anymore to help you. The help is already here. The knowledge is already here. The land is here. The sun is here. The water is here. The minerals are here. You have some of the finest minds in the world, but they're in Europe and they're in America making money while Africa suffers. Why don't we create politically stable environment and call the children of Africa back home to help build Africa? We are your children, and we will come and help. But don't expect us to come with billions of dollars when we don't have it. We're struggling in America, but you got it all right here under your foot. And you should be ashamed not to look to yourself, begging white folk to give you what you could give yourself. What I said today, which one of these countries is going to give you $20 million? America's not going to give you $20 million. You got it right here. But your disunity won't allow you to prove it. It's your fault. And you got to accept that responsibility. That is why my message is atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility. We got to stop blaming everything on somebody else and see what is our responsibility here.
Can you hear the drum? A new day has come. Burkina Faso rise. Traore leads the way. Traore, oh Traore. From south of Africa to the north of Africa, from west of Africa to the east of Africa. Traore, oh Traore. Last hope of the land, freedom's torch, Africa unite. He walks the path of Sankara's flame, with Lumumba's voice calling out the name. Kwame dreamed it, Traore rise, Africa's future shining in his eyes. Bob said emancipate your mind, now Traure's leading all mankind. No more chains, no foreign rule, Africa now rewrite the rule. Traore, oh Traore. From south of Africa to the north, from west to the east we rise forth. Traore, oh Traore. Last hope of the land, freedom's torch, Africa unite. Young blood rise, this is your day. Traore showed us the African way. No more fear, no more delay. It's time to build and not just pray. Leaders of nations, hear the sound. Freedom's fire is burning the ground. From Congo's heart to Ghana's shore, Africa's lion will sleep no more. The drums of voices, the fire in our eyes. Traore leads, but we all must stand. One people, one heart, one land. Bossa, get up, stand up, not just for show. Now the winds of change begin to blow. Not for gold, not for gain, but for justice, freedom, and no more chains. Let the world see Africa anew, with roots deep and skies blue. Traore stands not for fame, but to cleanse the soil, restore the name. No more puppets, no more lies. Africa's eagle now fills the skies. From Mali's dust to the Nile's glow, the seeds of freedom begin to grow. Traore, oh, Traore. South to north, east to west, Africa rise, we give our best. Traore, oh, Traore. Hope of the land, the lion roars. Africa now, we open doors.
ITT International TIF International TIF International TIF Oh International TIF International TIF ITT International TIF International ROC International TIF Oh hey International TIF International TIF International TIF International TIF Look at you up there, yeah. Now we up there. Say yeah. Well, not true, I want to talk again you. Not true, I want to talk again you. If I lie you, you go seriously punish me. Make if I punish me, you do my punish me. Make you land they punish me. You do my punish me. I read down for bookie you. I see some myself for you. Welly, welly you. Well, welly, welly you. Not true, I want to talk again you. If I lie you, go seriously punish me. Make if I punish me, you do my punish me. Make you land they punish me. I read down for bookie you. I see some myself for you. Welly, welly you. Welly, welly you. Not true, I want to talk again you. If I lie you, go seriously punish me. Make you do my punish me. Make you land the punish me. Make if I punish me. I read down for bookie you. I see some myself for you. I see some myself for you. Welly, welly you. Long time ago. 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 African man will not they carry shit. Long time ago. They shit inside big hole. Long time ago. For Yoruba land in Ashalanga. Long time ago. For Igbo land in Unusi. Long time ago. For Hausa land in Salunga. Long time ago. For Ghana land in Tiafi. Long time ago. Ashanti land in Ayani. Long time ago. For Ethiopia land in Sagrabet. Long time ago. For Kikuyu land in Chocho. Long time ago. For Bemba land in Chimbuzi. Long time ago. For Tunga land in Ichibunzi. Long time ago. Long time ago. Long time ago. African man will not they carry shit. Long time ago. We they shit inside big hole. Long time ago. 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 Before them come force us away as slaves. Long time ago. During the time them come force us away as slaves. Long time ago. The European man na him they carry shit. Long time ago. And for them culture to carry shit. Long time ago. During the time them come colonize us. Long time ago. Them come teach us to carry shit. Long time ago. Long time ago. Long time ago. African man we know they carry shit. Long time ago. European man teach us to carry shit. Long time ago. Many foreign companies they Africa carry all our money go. Say many foreign companies they Africa carry all our money go. Say them go write big English for newspaper Dabaru we Africans. Say them go write big English for newspaper Dabaru we Africans. I read about one of them inside book like that them calling him na ITT. I read about one of them inside book like that them calling him na ITT. Them go they cause confusion, cause corruption, cause oppression, cause inflation. Them go they cause oppression, cause confusion, cause corruption, cause inflation, cause oppression, cause confusion, cause inflation, cause oppression, inflation, corruption, oppression, inflation. Them get one style way them they use. Them go pick one African man, a man with low mentality. Them go give ya $1 million breads to become of high position here. 1,000 naira bread. To become one you see less chief. Like ratty they do them good, they do from corner, passy, under, passy, side, passy, in, passy, out, passy, pee, passy, in, passy, corner, passy, under, passy, side, passy, up, passy, corner, passy, under, passy, side, then he gradually, then he gradually, them go be friend to journalist, friend to commissioner, friend to permanent secretary, friend to minister, friend to head of state, then start to steal money, start them corruption, start them inflation, start them oppression, start them confusion, start them oppression, start to steal money, start to steal money like Obasanjo and Abiola.
International teaching.
ITT.
International teaching.
International rook.
International teaching.
International thief.
International teaching.
We fight them well. We don't tire to carry any more them shit. We don't tire to carry any more them shit. We don't tire to carry any more them shit.
Yes, we'd like to welcome you to Collector Republic. Having a ball. Wait a minute. We're going to play some sounds. Yes, I'm going to take this opportunity right now is that we just started having a ball at the Calcutta Republic, everybody. Having heavy brothers and sisters here. Yes, Kofi on
on conga drums, man. Having a heavy thing going on there. Everybody say yeah. Thank you, brothers and sisters. We are the colorful republic right now. Doing everything possible to be happy. Doing every goddamn thing to be happy. Yes. Everybody say yeah. Thank you. Everybody say yeah. the grounds come to again. Are you ready now? Are you ready now? Let's go. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. They took our people and spoil our towns. Now since then trouble start, you. Now since then trouble start, you. One more time. Now since then trouble start, you.
Kwame Nkrumah, gone. Patrice Lumumba, gone. Thomas Sankara, gone. Julius Nyerere, gone. Jomo Kenyatta, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Haile Selassie, gone. Nelson Mandela, gone. Amilcar Cabral, gone. Africa, protect Traoré, let no shadow steal his glory. From the Nile to Soweto, we mourn and pray, don't take another prophet away. Africa, protect Traoré, protect, protect, protect. It's our only message from Haiti to Accra, we still say gone, gone. Toussaint Louverture, gone. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, gone. Nanny of the Maroons, gone. Marcus Garvey, gone. Malcolm X, gone. Harriet Tubman, gone. Frederick Douglass, gone. Jose Marti, gone. They lit fires in the night. They gave their flesh, they paid the price. But we still march in stolen chains. If we forget, it's us to blame. So let the wind across the land call their names with lifted hands. Let Traoré Ray know he's not alone. Let the blood of prophets make him strong. Conflicts not already, let no shadows fear his glory. From beloved, that's what it is to me. Less than self protection.
What is the problem? Anyway, listen, I don't know what YouTube is doing to me, but give thanks for the viewing and the listening. I was going to show you all a very nice video from our brothers and sisters in Burkina Faso, but I don't know. Everything was working and still is, but in relation to the video, it gone freeze on me. But we want to leave everybody with this. There are some hypocrites who impress you with their views regarding worldly affairs and openly call upon Allah God to witness what is in their hearts. Yet they are your worst adversaries. There is the type of man whose speech about this world life may dazzle thee, and he calls Allah to witness about what is in his heart. Yet is he the most contemptuous of enemy, human beings. So we have to be careful, you know, all times. And that's why sometimes I say that most African Americans and African Caribbean and Africans in the diaspora, they not read the Quran, and those who have, they find say that is talking about, is referring to the nature of human beings. And they'll see so much do's and don'ts. And it's so clear. And that bothers people because they say, to me it bothers me because they're saying, I'm saying that they're saying, how can a book talk to me? But then, why ain't the Bible, since most of you are Christians, why ain't it talking to you? Why isn't it speaking to you? Why isn't it speaking to the nature of man? No, because someone has taught you, or taught us, or tried to teach us that a man that they're saying to us became God, died for the sin of man, and then was resurrected at the same time. But how foolish can we be? Sin's still there. Whatever was there before remain, and at that time and after that time, and it's accelerated. We can't see where this tranquility, we strive for tranquility, but we can't see this tranquility. We can't see this brotherly love and sisterly love and all of that. We can't see it in our life. We know we can't get it because we have to strive for it in our families and make good of our neighbors and so on. But you're speaking of a worldly affair. And all we get to know from these people is killing, brutalization, war, and weapons. They invest so much in weapons. Why? If the thought was not on war, why you invest in weapons? And why are you always developing weapons? And you not develop something to improve life. You develop something to conquer other people and disrupt other people's life and kill them at the same time. And you don't care how much money and how much people you kidnap to get that something that you feel would benefit you. Like now you want to have a golden dawn and all kind of thing. It never ends. It never ends. So when people are dazzling us with their fair speeches and so forth, we want to hear something good, but it's a dazzle. They're hypocrites. This is not truth. As long as I've been alive, I'm hearing them talk about the sea. And people are spending money giving pharmaceuticals and researchers to find a way of relieving mankind or people them owe contract. But yet still them spend money, say them are go to the moon, and then them say them are go Mars and all these things. And at the same time, they don't know nothing about the ocean. Right here on earth. Them pollute the ocean. Them take all the dirty things and put them in certain metal caskets and drop them in the ocean. The ocean is full of pollutants. And then them take the earth and look for things and make all kinds of destructive weapons, mass weapons. And them have the cheek to tell other people them that them cannot use their intelligence to defend themselves against them. You understand? So they want to continue as the dictators, which is the philosophy of the Romans back then. Them used to beat up everybody. The Romans. And this thing called Christianity, it is Romans. See? And it's the Romans and its followers that don't like Muhammad, peace and blessing upon him. They don't like Al-Islam. They don't like Muslims. They pretend. They pretend. There are some human beings among them, yes, naturally, that have qualities, but the mass numbers of them despise us. Because we don't like what them do. We don't like what them stand for. You see? And when we say Allahu Akbar, we give Allah the ultimate praise. Not man. Not democracy. You understand? Not no atom and nuclear bomb. So we say, I don't know what them or someone or whatever is happening, because I would really have loved, I would not love, I would have liked to show our brother and, you know, the oh, we may be lucky.
Africa, pretend, let no bullet end this story. From Dakar to Kingston Bay, let's protect, try. From Harlem down to Zimbabwe, we still cry out their names. Gone. Kwame Nkrumah, gone. Patrice Lumumba, gone. Thomas Sankara, gone. Julius Nyerere, gone. Jomo Kenyatta, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Samora Machel, gone. Steve Biko, gone. Haile Selassie, gone. Nelson Mandela, gone. Amilcar Cabral, gone. Africa, protect Traoré, let no shadow steal his glory. From the Nile to Soweto, we mourn and pray, don't take another prophet away. Africa, protect Traoré, protect. It's our only message from Haiti to Accra, we still say gone, gone. Toussaint Louverture, gone. Jean-Jacques Dessalines, gone. Nanny of the Maroons, gone. Marcus Garvey, gone. Malcolm X, gone. Harriet Tubman, gone. Frederick Douglass, gone. Jose Marty, gone. They lit fires in the night. They gave their flesh, they paid the price. But we still march in stolen chains. If we forget, it's us to blame. So let the wind across the land call their names with lifted hands. Marty, gone. They lit fires in the night. They gave their flesh, they paid the price. But we still march in stolen chains. If we forget, it's us to blame. So let the wind across the land call their names with lifted hands. Let Traoré know he's not alone. Let the blood of prophets make him strong. Come, protect not already, let no shadows fear his glory. From beloved, that's what it is to me. Less than say protects us.